everybody. It's Chris Marshall of the Payne Street Team, brought to you by Payne Auto Group Valley-wide and PayneAutoGroup.com, where we have what you want, lo que tú quieras, regardless. And it's time for another edition of Payne Auto Talk. And today I am in Edinburg, Texas at Payne Edinburg Chrysler-Dodge-Jeep-Ram. We call that the CDJR. And I am here with Mr. Geoff Mauldin. Good afternoon. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Good morning, Chris.
Oh, man. It's good to see you back, man. You've been away for a little bit, and now you're back.
About 7+ years, yeah.
All right, man. Cool. And now you're here at our Edinburg Mopar location, and you're the second in command here, the XO?
That's correct.
All right. So you're the general sales manager. Yeah. I believe Mr. Tony Flores went to Ed Payne Motors in Weslaco, and that means Adrian Gonzalez is the tallest hog in the trough, and you're right there. And here you are back here, man. I know things happen, people go places, and looks like you found your way home. You are the boomerang.
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, I've bounced around a little bit with these guys starting in July of 2000 and finally found my way back.
Awesome. Well, we're glad you're here. You're a hoot and a half. So, getting into it, you're here in the car business. It's in your blood. It's something you've done. Since
1991.
Oh, man.
So pretty much all I've done with my entire adult life. I mean, I took a little bit of a stint into the heavy truck industry for a while, dabbled with Volvo tractors. But for the most part, it's been automobiles.
Oh, the big 18-wheelers.
18-wheelers, right.
Oh, man.
Little different animal than cars.
Yeah.
Because obviously those are a tool. I mean, it's not everybody transportation for something, and the people you're dealing with are never going to get in them, never going to drive them, never going to use them. They're just, it's a tool. It's like selling an alignment machine to a service manager.
And I knew for years we talked about 18-wheelers and tractor trailers, and we're talking about, Peterbilt and Kenworth and all those, and Ford and North Star, Navistar, and then Volvo, of all people, of all manufacturers, they do it, huh?
They're one of the largest global manufacturers of 18-wheelers and heavy equipment.
That is wild.
But, I mean, that's a totally
different
realm.
Different animal, yeah. So you're back here, and you've been in cars since 91. How'd that get your start? You started off with Hot Wheels as a kid?
No, I mean, for the most part, and I think if you ask anybody that's done it any length of time, nobody wakes up one day and decides they want to be a car salesman. That's just not how it happens. And it didn't happen for me. I fell into becoming a car salesman because I was working at a motorcycle dealership going to college, and a buddy of mine that I used to hang out with in high school, and he was the shy, quiet type that, when we're at a party or something, he'd be like, "Hey, she's kind of cute. Why don't you go over and talk to her, and I'll stand behind you and look good." And then I'd introduce him. And the first month he was selling cars after we were out of college or out of high school, he made $5,000 back in 1990.
Wow.
And I'm making $2,500 selling motorcycles, and I thought, I'm in the wrong business.
Dude.
And I haven't looked back since.
Wow. So you were the icebreaker.
Basically.
You were the spokesperson. Hi, how you doing?
I'm
you're
like
mighty
the
cute.
Reverse of a wingman, I guess you'd say. I mean,
yeah, you're the first in. You're like the tip of the spear.
There we go. I like that.
How you doing there, little miss? My name's Geoff. This is Brad Pitt. Now that you all have met, I'm going to go over here.
I'm gonna exit stage left.
Oh, man. Well, I tell you what, I've kind of been there. I've been there. So you got into that motorcycles. Like when you were riding motorcycles, what was your favorite bike?
I rode Suzuki's back then. So I had a Suzuki GSX 750.
Nice.
And I sold, believe it or not, Yamahas and Kawasaki's.
Ah.
It was a big motorcycle dealership in San Antonio that sold all 4 Japanese brands, all the watercraft.
They had all 4 brands?
Had all 4 brands.
Wow.
All the watercraft, power equipment, everything. I mean, it was a lot of fun being 19 years old, working there and getting to ride these things and play with them and do all that kind of fun stuff.
No joke, man. I mean, I rode Yamahas and Hondas, so yeah, man, it's awesome.
Then I had to grow up, so.
Never. Now we got the Skittles, and we call it Skittles, all these cool cars and trucks out here. So you did that, and where'd you go to school at?
I went to Trinity in San Antonio.
Oh, okay.
And then, like I said, was going for engineering. Realized real quickly that the people I was in class with weren't like me from a personality standpoint. And I decided that I didn't want to spend the next 20 to 25 years of my professional career surrounded by people like them in a cubicle area. So I got a summer job working at the motorcycle dealership selling parts. and switched majors to business.
Nice.
And then started actually selling the motorcycles themselves. Met a girl, got pregnant, and the rest is history.
I know how that goes.
So left school, got into my career, and here 33 years later, I'm sitting here. Here in Edinburg, Texas, at a Chrysler-Dodge-Jeep-Ram store.
Awesome. Now, what is one of your favorite aspects of the business? I mean, I know everybody that gets up and goes to a 9 to 5, or even if they're on a 9 to 5, they work 7 on, 7 off. But when you're in the zone, when you're at work, what is like your favorite parts? Like,
there's a story I like to tell when people, because let's be honest, car salesman and the car industry as a whole doesn't have the best reputation.
Yeah, there's a stigma.
We're a couple of notches up on the food chain from lawyers. So that being said, you're at a social event, you're at a cocktail party or something like that, and somebody asks me what I do, and I tell them. I mean, I sell cars. Now, granted, I'm in upper management and have been for the last 15 years, but I'm a car salesman. That's what I do. And I'm not ashamed to say that. And they'll kind of look at you a little crossways, okay. And then I'll try to twist it on them. And I'll ask them a simple question. I said, you have kids, you have nephews, nieces, little kids. And usually they'll say yes. And I'll say, remember when they were like 5, 6, 7 years old and Christmas time would come around and they're opening Christmas presents underneath the tree and they get to that one gift that they've wanted since like July?
Yeah.
And they rip that thing open and the look on their face and the joy and the amazement, and they come up to you and they give you that just bone-crushing hug, and you watch them play with that thing for the next 4 hours while you're sipping coffee.
Yeah.
I said, how cool is that feeling? And they always go, oh, that's amazing. I said, I get that every day when I hand the customers the keys to their new cars.
Yeah.
You get that same joy,
that Santa Claus feeling.
Excitement. You get to see that same kind of euphoria in their eyes. And I get that multiple times a day. And on top of that, I get paid okay. So, I mean, there's drug's probably the wrong word to use, but it is. There's a high you get off of helping somebody be that happy. And that's one of the things that I love about this industry. I love genuinely helping people. Seeing somebody that's just gone through a divorce and they've got some credit issues and they really need a better car than what they've got to go to work or for their family, something like that, and you're able to help them. You're able to help them, get back on their feet. You're able to help that young couple that just got out of college, doesn't really have any credit, get that first start, and start building their credit. Those types of things, a lot of people don't see about our industry. I mean, and honestly, if you're doing this job the right way, that's the way you approach it. You're trying to help everybody. You're trying to genuinely provide a good quality service and take care of the customer. Because if you do that and you do it right, they'll come back. Mm-hmm. They'll keep coming back. And that's kind of a unique thing about the Rio Grande Valley versus the other markets that I've worked in, like San Antonio. San Antonio is a transient market. Okay, their three major industries are the military, tourism, and the medical field, the educational field. They have a huge medical training complex. So people cycle through that market, that area, quite often. About once a year, once every 2 to 3 years, about a third of the population recycles. They get sent to another military base. They get sent from the Hyatt downtown to New York or someplace out, the banquet coordinator or whatever. And the people in the hospital industries, they move. So you can do car business probably not the cleanest way, not really with a focus on the customer, because by the time that customer realizes what happened or what how they got treated, they've moved. Yeah. And somebody else is there, and you can do it all over again. Yeah. But people don't really leave the valley. Yeah. And what I've noticed in the it's been 24 years. I got here in 2000. If they do leave, the valley's kind of like a black hole. Yeah. They get sucked back. There's a relative that gets sick or something happens or they realize where they went wasn't better.
Yeah, life happens and they bounce back.
And they come back. So if you do business the wrong way consistently, you're going to run out of customers. Yeah. So you really can't do that.
And the family aspect too.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it is. So, and that's one of the things that I have to admit that I do like about the way Mark and Austin and Bud have always tried to run their businesses. They have a big aspect on, listen, you need to take care of the customers. All right. Yeah, we're here. It's a business, but at the same time, and if we take care of the customers, it's funny how they're going to take care of us. Yeah. And karma's kind of a Pollyanna way of looking at it, but there's some truth to it. It comes back around, good and bad. And so the 24 years now that I've been here, I've been served well because that's the way I approach it. And so when I've gotten into management and in upper management, that's what I teach my people. If you take care of the people, they're going to take care of you. If you take care of your staff, if you take care of the customers, if you take care of the dealership, it's going to take care of you. And again, 24 years down here, I haven't done too bad.
That's good business.
It's really not anything different than any other industry.
I can see that.
I mean, it all boils down to how well you treat the customers, and if you treat them well, if you treat them with respect, if you treat them like you want to be treated. I mean, it sounds kind of Pollyanna, kind of just like, well, yeah, that's obvious, but it's not, because so many people don't do that. And I'll kind of get off on a tangent a little bit. That's one of the frustrating things that we've got now about the current generation that we're hiring, is the fact they don't know how to relate to people one-on-one.
Also the fact that they order stuff online, they don't get the personal relationship with folks.
That's part of it, but it's also about the fact that they don't know how to do that. They've been raised on a cell phone. I was reading a book, I can't remember about the sociologist's name, but it's called iGen. And it talks about the children that were born after the iPhone came out. Okay, so these kids have grown up on screens, whether the parents gave it to them or whether they were exposed to it in schools with tablets and whatever. And that's their world. They don't know how to interact. When I was a kid in the 70s, we went out and played.
That's what I did in the 80s. Yeah.
Summer would come and Mom was like, when the street lights come on, come home. We'd be gone from 8 in the morning until 6:37, 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And Mom had no clue where the hell we were. We were friends in backyards, at the parks, riding our bicycles everywhere.
Yeah, my folks, they say when the sun touches the horizon, you start pedaling for home.
Okay, my 16-year-old, I bought him a bicycle when he was in middle school. He's now 16, just got him a car. I think he rode it twice. The kids just in general just don't do that. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, there's all sorts of dangers out there in the world and everything else, and people are going to choose how they want to raise their children. But the reality of the situation, because of technology, they have all of these interactions online. I mean, my kid's playing video games and talking to people, all over the world, while he's playing Call of Duty or whatever he's playing on his PlayStation. And that's their interaction. That's their socialization. And COVID made it worse.
Yeah.
Because they didn't get the normal forced socialization they got in school. And so part of the problem that we've got right now, and part of why people talk about customer service kind of falling off, people don't know how to relate to people anymore. They don't know how to sit down and talk to somebody face to face and have just a general two human being conversations. And then let's not even talk about the fact that you toss in all the divisive aspects that are going on in society. We won't even go down that road. But just in general, I mean, we'll tell our salespeople, hey, go sit down with your customer and talk about anything but the car deal. And they're like, how do I do that? They don't know how. So part of what I'm having to do now in my capacity is teach these guys how to be social, because they don't know how. And it's kind of sad. It really is. It's a sad commentary.
Yeah, it kind of shows where we've been and where we're at and kind of where we're going.
Unfortunately, I think.
So it's like the greatest generation. You're talking about my grandfolks were from the Depression era, and they, grandfather, World War II vet, just like Mr. Payne, the progenitor of the Auto Group. And then, my dad, early parts of Vietnam before they actually went in. And then, that's the generation that raised me and that I was around. And I'm with what I do with PR, I can get out there and talk to people, and for those who knew my father, it's like they say, Jim could talk forever and not say a thing. But, I have to have substance, especially, let's say, with a podcast. And I'm at my age here, middle age, mid-40s, and people of my own generation can't talk, or their communication level is lacking. And then the people slightly younger, I've seen it kind of fall off,
It's not a priority. I mean, the schools don't teach it. The kids don't have to do it because, again, they're texting.
Yeah.
They're communicating with Messenger. They're communicating through TikTok or Instagram. And
the attention span. Yeah.
That's part of it. And the other things, and I see this too, read articles about the higher numbers of depression and anxieties and stress because everybody's projecting these images of themselves, whether it's lifestyle or what they're eating and all this other kind of stuff. And then people look at their real life versus what they're seeing for people on these social media pages. And they're like, my life doesn't measure up to that. Well, unfortunately, their life isn't that great either, but they're projecting that. And that's...
Yeah, they're projecting the fantasy of what they want you to see and on a regular basis.
As opposed to, I mean, shoot, my sister and I grew up, we by no means were well off and so forth and so on, but we were thankful and grateful for what we did have as opposed to longing for what we didn't. Mm-hmm. And I see the reverse of that now because of social media. Probably the biggest reasons why I don't do social media. I don't have any social media accounts. Yeah. It's a waste of time in my opinion.
Wow.
None. Zero. Have no desire. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, none of it.
Yeah, I just downloaded TikTok, and it's weird how that algorithm works out. And I don't, to the business, yes. To the business aspect, for those of you who like and share what I do with the Payne Street Team's Chris Marshall, thank you very much. But when it comes to my own personal stuff, I just kind of see what's out there in the ether, And I did the research, and now you talked about, that thing you wanted on Christmas morning as a kid. It's been over 35, almost 40, about 35 years. I still haven't gotten the USS Flag of G.I. Joe aircraft carrier underneath my tree. And that's fine because they call it, adulting now? Like when you get to that moment, especially being a dad, I have a 2-drawer Ninja air fryer. I will fight any man, woman, or child barefisted for that thing. That little R2-D2 is the new thing, and that's what gives me joy. And you said, you see people projecting this online. Oh, look, I have this, I have that. It's like, dude, I got an air fryer, and I just got one like it for a buddy of mine. I was like, this is going to change your life. And then he sends me pictures. He goes, I made pork ribs tonight. Where's this been? If our parents would have lived long enough to get one of these, And it's just that, and now it's like my algorithm is full of air fryers. Yeah. So it's like, oh my God, let's go back to cars and airplanes and sci-fi and nerd stuff, and I can see how it can be a distraction, and we get sucked into it. I mean, we're social creatures.
Yeah, but that's the sad part is we are, and we're not now.
Yeah. Man, this got deep. Wow, we're scraping.
Well, how about them Cowboys?
Oh, that's the thing. I don't even, unfortunately, please don't hate me, I don't even watch sports anymore. Or I used to as a social thing, but I didn't grow up playing sports. I was a musician, not an athlete. And in a social setting, having a cold Frosty with friends, there's a game on or something. Hey, that's cool. Let's watch that. But I'd rather be playing Uno, playing Scrabble with my kids, or Phase 10. That's like I love that card game. Oh, man. How about some air-fried food and some Phase 10? Dude, deal me in. Or now they've reissued the Atari 2600. I can get on that.
Yeah, I can't play the current ones.
Yeah, like Call of Duty and all that kind of stuff. Dude, the aforementioned, I'll mention them now, Gabriel Trevino with our digital department. If you see me on screen here in Edinburg, guess what? That's Gabriel behind the camera doing the work. He showed me an emulator. It'll emulate Nintendo stuff on my phone. And I'm like, now you're talking. He got me into a game that I had after I had my hand surgery. I'm at the house, and I could barely move my left hand. And there I am on my iPad playing Retro Bowl. It's like Tecmo Bowl on the NES. A simple little football game. But you can trade players and all that kind of stuff. And I got into it. I was like, this is great. And all I'm doing is moving my finger on the screen. There's no controller. There's nobody screaming in my ear on a headset. And, I was like, wow, how simple of a life is this? And then I picked up a book, and I'm like, oh, when's the last time I read a book?
Yep.
And that's another thing that, not to go off in left field, but yeah, like you said, social creatures, and we're not doing that anymore. But And that's one thing about public relations, I will say, especially for the company. It gives me a chance to be around humanity. And yeah, COVID screwed a lot of that up, man.
Oh, yeah.
And what was that like, wherever you were at when COVID hit and you were, doing your business of selling vehicles and getting service and all that? What was that like for you?
I mean, to say it was an adjustment is a huge understatement, excuse me, because the industry had slowly been going towards online retail selling. I mean, to some kind of morphed model of Amazon, where people could go online and see all of the listings, which we've been doing for years.
Oh, like eBay, when that hit, that freaked people out.
Exactly. So the industry has been saying, we're headed this way. We're going to be here. We're going to be able to sell cars online, and customers wouldn't have to come to the dealership. And all the dealers were like, yeah, whatever. And then all of a sudden, they couldn't come to the dealership, or wouldn't, out of fear. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, stuff that was supposed to happen in 2025, 2030, stuff like that was all of a sudden happening now.
Yeah.
And dealers, and I'll backtrack a little bit. One of the other things I love about the automotive industry is we are unbelievably resilient as a whole. I'm talking about just the industry as a whole. We find ways to survive.
Yeah. The crunch of 2009.
Yeah, gas being $5 a gallon. I mean, we figure out ways to maintain. The operators and the staffs that work at these dealerships nationwide are unbelievable business people. And COVID hit, and all of a sudden, dealerships are shut down. And then we had to argue that we were essential personnel. And they're like, no, you're not. You sell cars. Yeah, we are, because guess what? Hospitals, EMTs, police people, they need to get their vehicle to get to work. What happens if it breaks?
Where are they going to go?
Okay, so maybe you guys are essential. So guess what? Now we're open again. Because people still need vehicles. People still need a way to get around. I mean, we're not New York, we're not LA, we're not Chicago. We don't have a mass transit system. Although, hats off to McAllen and their increased bus service. Yeah. I'm seeing more and more of those routes, and I'm seeing them extend off of 10th Street now. But we don't have a mass transit system here in Texas as a whole. You don't have a car, you don't get around.
Yeah.
It's too damn hot to ride your bicycle everywhere.
Yeah, and rideshare is really blown up here in the valley too.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, no, it's
not as big in the metro areas.
No, not in the. But what I'm saying is, it's blown up as far as people need cars for that.
True, that's true. So the big thing is we adapted, and so now all of a sudden we're having to figure out ways to remote sign people, to get people to e-sign documents. Banks were having to figure out how to accept these types of documents again. I mean, e-contracting was already out there, but nobody was doing it in mass. Now, if you don't e-contract, it's like you're using the old stick and tablets as opposed to using writing paper and pencil. Yeah. It's amazing, again, all of the changes that were forced on us. They talk about necessity is the mother of all inventions. Yep. Well, guess what? COVID was a huge-ass necessity for the automotive industry. We had to find a way to stay relevant, be able to still serve our customers and keep them safe and keep our people safe.
Yeah.
I mean, because I got COVID during COVID at work. And at one point in time, the dealership I was running, we had to shut down because half of the campus, because half of the staff was sick. So we couldn't open those buildings.
Wow.
Because there weren't people to cover them, to be there. So that was a big adjustment.
Yeah, that's running on a skeleton crew.
Yeah.
Barely.
Yeah, I mean, when you normally got a staff of, say, 35 or 40 and you got a staff of 12.
Oh, wow. And
managers, sales, F&I, everybody.
Oh, my God.
So it was, and that's just on the sales side. Service was another completely different animal. They had a little easier because they're outdoors.
Yeah.
So a little bit better ventilation, a little bit less issues there. But still, I mean, supply chains, deliveries, all of those delays. The bigger issue of it was technology has been increasing exponentially in the last 10 years in cars. The number of microchips and microprocessors that have used went from like 30 to like 400 per car. So we're talking about, obviously, the automotive industry is using more and more of these things. So that was kind of an issue leading in. And most of these manufacturers are trying to build on time, build in real time supplies. They're not wanting to house 10,000 fenders at a factory because there's costs, there's storage, there's waste of space, all those other things. So if they know they're going to build 1,000 cars, say, in a month, they try to have 1,100 pieces to build those cars. And so they're ordering in real time. Well, when the supply chain got jacked up, that hurt. Then you start looking at the fact of now nobody's leaving, everybody's working from home, nobody's going to school. What does everybody need now that they didn't have? They need a better computer. So guess where other microchips and microprocessors were going?
Yeah,
they weren't going to the automotive industry. They're going to computers because now everybody's got to have a new one for the Zoom calls and for their virtual classes and their virtual work environment. And they realize this 10-year-old computer that I use to surf the web is not good for what I need to do for work now that I have to stay home. Kids are now having it. So now they're not only having to upgrade the
tablets.
They're having
and the hot spots for the school districts.
And then now the kids can't go outside to play. They can't go do anything. So what do we do? Let's get them a new Xbox. Let's get them. So you combine all of this. And then I don't know the last time you looked at a Best Buy or anything like that. Notice how many refrigerators, microwaves, televisions are wireless. They're internet connected.
Yeah.
There's microprocessors. So everything, this whole tsunami of events, technology increasing, the increased demand for all this. And I hate to say this, most of these automotive guys negotiated these contracts with these suppliers years in advance.
Yeah.
So when they say, we've got another shipment coming, but they can send the same things to Sony, who's going to pay 3 times for it because we already negotiated the contract, we'll get you yours when we can. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just one aspect. And the fire obviously didn't help. Okay, that's just that's icing on the cake.
But also like the trade thing, because we were relying on Taiwan, and China goes, we don't like that. Then they started withholding, and all of a sudden we have a shortage on that aspect. But I never put that together of, my kids were at home. They needed tablets, and all of a sudden the kids in rural areas or hot spots and all this other crap. And I'm like,
Ask Ken Scott during 2020, 2021, and early 2022, what was the delay to order a new desktop computer from Dell?
Oh, yeah, that's right. It took
8-9 months.
Yeah.
Why? Again, because all of the stuff that they put in their computers, people were buying up to put in laptops and other things because of the initial onslaught when COVID hit.
That reminds me of when they scaled back exportation of the PlayStation 2 because they didn't want to go into the Middle East because they were linking them together because of their processing power. And Iran and Iraq were using it for their nuclear programs.
Now that I didn't hear.
As a giant, imagine a bunch of like a conference room size table with just PS2 stacked and all, because they had a link, they had a network link, and they had them all linked together for processing power. And they got a big reefer running to keep them cool, and they're sitting there using them as a network to process information and data so they can sit there and develop a nuke program. And missile technology. They were taking some of the chipsets out and using them in guided missile technology.
That I was not aware of.
Yeah, that's the PS2. Into the PS3. Yeah, they had to limit. That was the early 2000s, around the time we started going into Iraq and all that. So.
We made it through all these recessions. We've made it through massive recalls. I mean, the dealers got through the Firestone debacle back in 2000. We've made it through all of these other issues and so forth. $5 gas, various presidencies and bad economies and so forth and so on.
Global catastrophes here and there.
Yeah.
Political climate.
We'll find a way.
What do you foresee, like not like a 3 or 5 year plan, but what do you foresee the industry going as far as, I know, like the sedan, let's say this as an example, the sedan is still there, like we still have Malibu being made, but everything's going to a crossover SUV.
And the funny thing is the manufacturers that chose to go that route, i.e., Ford, CDJR, Stellantis, even some of the imports. I mean, Toyota still basically only builds the Camry and the Corolla. But the ones that have capitalized on that are Kia, Hyundai, Mazda, some Nissan, the ones that actually still make 3 or 4 sedans, because there's still a demand for that. There's still people that want a car, not an SUV. So, do we need all of the manufacturers manufacture? Probably not. The demand's not there. And I mean, again, there's a lot smarter people than me that have done all the bean counting and looked at the the profitability and the
stats,
how much it costs to continue to produce these cars versus these and so forth. So, I mean, again, but the popularity of some of these other brands that have maintained some of these cars, can't be argued.
Yeah.
And, people, I was reading an article yesterday about the new CEO of Jeep admitting that there were some bad decisions made probably by the predecessor about the fact of getting rid of the Renegade and, not having the Compass be our least expensive model starting at like $32,000 and so forth, and not having, the Cherokee anymore and going for some of these more high expensive luxury, because maybe we missed it. I mean, he didn't say absolutely we did, but he's saying we're going to rephase this stuff and we're going to restart looking at some of our price points. And I think a lot of the manufacturers are revisiting that and saying we're missing out on some people that are not buying cars now because the average transaction point's over $50,000 for a new vehicle.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point in time, Joe Lunchbucket's not going to be able to afford that car.
Yeah, that's true.
And unfortunately, used car values haven't really fallen like we expected them to. So, and I was talking with a rep from a major financial institution, which I'll rename nameless, who says that they're actually seriously considering 96-month financing for like regular domestic products, whereas normally that was reserved for like Mercedes and Bentley and stuff.
Yeah.
No, for Ford.
Wow.
For Nissan. And this is not a captive. This is a publicly traded financial institution that is saying we're probably going to be doing that here by next quarter. 96-month financing. I mean, 8 years.
Wow.
8 years for a car. I'm kind of shocked.
Yeah.
I remember when 72 months, when I first got in the industry, 72 months was an eternity.
Yeah.
In the early 90s, 91, 92, that's when Chrysler, of all people, started dabbling with 72-month financing. And everybody thought, this is bad, we don't know, this is not a good thing, we don't want to do this. And now we're actually talking about, for mainstream cars, 96 months.
Yeah. Like the last spots I cut, it was 1.9%, for 60 months, and then they did another one for 72 months. I was like, I'm trying to remember the actual numbers. Please forgive me. I've cut too many commercials in my time, but it's like, is this right?
Well, we're going to see 96-month financing before the end of the year being available, and I wonder about that.
Yeah, and it's also the fact of this year we're in an election cycle, and sometimes the ballot box kind of is the wind that pushes on that weather vane of the market, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, but until then.
Oh, and again, I mean, Dodge just announced that they're going to have a new pickup coming out for 2025 called the Tungsten.
Really?
It's a beautiful truck. Absolutely gorgeous. They are purposely targeting the affluent, and the Cowboy Cadillac edition is what they're looking at. These guys, this truck's never going to see dirt.
Oh, kind of like the Lincoln trucks?
Starting price, $90,000 for a half-ton pickup.
Wow.
Starting price. Now, don't get me wrong. It's beautiful. And are there some $90,000 trucks? Yeah, we got a TRX out here that's $125,000. There's Raptors that are that expensive. There's high-performance AT4s and stuff from General Motors that are that expensive. Mm-hmm. But it's just, I mean, I remember in 2005 buying an F-150 for $28,000.
Yeah.
Crew cab.
I remember going to one of our competitors before I started working for the company. It was about almost 2.5 years. And I remember seeing a Ford GT just because I wanted to see it. And I saw the Maroni, and it was $150,000. And, of course, I'm like, okay, I get it. And then there was the addendum, and the street markup was another $100K. And I'm going, this is a $250,000 sports car, and it's here, and somebody's going to buy this. And it was the thing. It was, I mean, Dad told me, I remember seeing the GT40, in the films from Le Mans in the mid-'60s, and it was a Ford spaceship on 4 wheels. And then a couple of years later, Alan Jackson is auctioning his, or doing a giveaway, and I'm like, what happened here? I was like, what happened to this thing? But I guess, it withered on the vine. I'm not sure.
No, there's still collectors out there.
Oh, I know.
They'll pay a lot of money for that car.
The Joe Dirt Daytona car, did you see that? It went to auction for like $200,000-$300,000, and some guy did it on Facebook Reels. He goes, my neighbor just bought the Joe Dirt Daytona, and I'm going, this isn't real. There it was, and it came with the wig that David Spade wore and everything. I was like, hell, that's worth it for me right there. But yeah, but with the market going in the financial route, and now we have the aforementioned tungsten cowboy Cadillac. From Dodge or Ram. We're so old school. I still say Dodge Ram.
It's a Ram. Yep.
When it comes to, like, let's say 10 years down the road, what do you, in your crystal ball, or what would you like to see?
You said that's so foggy. Everybody's been talking about how EVs are going to be the wave of the future, and 10 years from now, 50 to 60% of the cars on the road are going to be electric. I'm not so sure about that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not a doubter. I drive a 100% electric vehicle. Mm-hmm. I absolutely love it. I didn't buy it because I'm I want to save the planet, climate change, tree hugging. That's not me. Mm-hmm. I drive it because it's a hell of a lot of fun to drive. I mean, the torque, the acceleration, the handling, it's a hoot. I just love
Buck Rogers.
I just love driving. Oh, yeah, and it's got the Hans Zimmer soundtrack for when I accelerate from the Academy Award winning
from Interstellar or Batman.
No, the guy who did Titanic, the actual composer designed the sound that it makes when it's accelerating and decelerating.
I didn't know that.
So coming through my sound system, you can hear it. It's like driving a Jetson car. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's the closest thing we can have to George Jetson is that.
But I don't know if I'm not everybody. Mm-hmm. Okay, so and I don't know, and the biggest issue I see for that is infrastructure. I just went to San Antonio 2 weeks ago. I did not take that car because I didn't want to have to fight with trying to find a working charging station in between.
And then
I got there.
It's another 40 minutes to an hour, which some people can kill, at a shopping mall or something like that.
Yeah, but at a Buc-ee's? Yeah,
true.
Or a Flying J?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with either of those two locations, but, there's not enough there to do in the meantime. But so that I'm not sure if that's the way to go. But so many people have pushed all in. Mm-hmm. And some of the manufacturers are starting, maybe we're not going to be all electric by 2030. They're starting to dial that back. Toyota has said that we think it's hydrogen fuel cells. That's the way to go.
Yeah, and that's been on the radar now for a while.
But again, infrastructure. Where are you going to refuel?
Yeah,
we've got more electric fueling options than we do hydrogen.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one. Dodge has got a really, really interesting concept that they're releasing either later this year or the beginning of the next year. Their new Ram is going to be an electric powertrain. So no gas engine per se driving the vehicle. Mm-hmm. Be an electric power plant connected to an electric transaxle that moves the car.
Okay.
There will be an ICE engine that powers a generator that charges the battery.
Okay, so just an onboard generator.
But you've got to have a gas engine that runs said generator. Mm-hmm. So they've got a power plant, so that's what will recharge the battery. So you've got 100% electric mobility. Mm-hmm. And range, they're estimating 700 plus. I'm sorry, I'm not driving 700 miles without getting out to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not doing it. So that's technology I can see. Problem is, how are you going to condense that into a small vehicle?
Yeah, and also the fact of if you have a 700-mile range, that's one thing. But if you cut the range, let's say, in half and you're pulling a trailer, is it going to be able to do it?
But see, that's just it. You could pull a trailer now and go, but the range is based on how much fuel the gas engine needs to charge to keep that other one charged.
Yeah, and also what kind of engine is it? Is it your off-the-shelf 5-horsepower Briggs and Stratton pull?
No, it's probably going to be a 3-cylinder or a 4-cylinder type of engine. I mean, I apologize, I don't have all of the technical details, but the premise is interesting. Now, could you make a large SUV that way? Could you make a mid-size SUV that way? Yeah, you could. And now, all of a sudden, range anxiety is gone and you don't need the infrastructure. Yeah. So that's something I could see bridging us, say, from next year to 2030. For the next 5 years, that kind of technology. I mean, we've already got the technology that batteries will go 1,000 kilometers, 500-600 miles.
Yeah.
Mercedes has that. Lucid's got it. Some of these other manufacturers already have that technology. Problem is, they're in $250,000 cars.
Yeah.
So we've now got to get that technology cheaper.
So Joe Lunchbox can sit there and...
Well, so that you can buy that car for $40,000.
Yeah.
That'll go 350, 400 miles with, and again, down here...
That's Austin, San Antonio.
Well, but just running the AC sucks a kilowatt hour just to have the AC on.
And then charging your device and all that kind of
If you're running the heater, and so cold weather, warm weather climates, the range. So if you say you've got a car that goes 250 miles on a charge, down here in South Texas, chop that down to about 200 because you're going to run the AC.
Yeah.
So you're going to use up 50 miles of that range just in AC juice. It's going to pull.
Yeah.
You're in Maine, make it about 175 because you're going to take that up because you're running the electric heater.
Yeah.
So you've got all of these other different little caveats. So if we get a car that'll do EPA rated 500 miles, now all of a sudden Joe Lunchbox can drive that car 300 miles easily in any of these kind of adverse weather conditions. We're probably 4 or 5 years away from that kind of technology being affordable. So...
yeah, that's going to be interesting to see.
So the key is going to be over the next 10 years, what happens to our infrastructure?
Yeah, capability versus price point.
And another interesting thing talking about infrastructure is all of these manufacturers that have jumped in bed with Elon.
With him having the patent and then just selling the rights?
He has 18,000 Tesla superchargers nationwide.
Okay.
The difference is not the fact that it's a Lightning versus an Android plug.
Yeah.
It's not that simple because you could just buy a $30 adapter.
Yeah.
The difference is having the software that would connect and communicate with the charger.
Okay.
So for those of you that don't have an electric car, when you plug that charger into the charging port, it'll go blue for a second, and then it kind of goes yellow while it's communicating, or white depending on the brand, and then it goes green as it starts to charge. Okay? And so that time when it's doing that, the car is communicating with the charger to figure out how much electricity you're giving me. Think of it like it's trying to figure out how big the pipe is for the amount of water that's coming through.
Okay.
So how is it going to receive this? Because the car's got to adjust, but you have to be able to communicate. So when you plug in to a Tesla and you're driving a Ford, a BMW, or any other brand but Tesla, you can't communicate. It's talking German, you're talking Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't. So that's what Ford, Nissan, Chevrolet just paid millions of dollars to Tesla for.
Just so they could the software.
Software. So now they can communicate because Elon's network of 18,000 chargers is the best network out there.
Yeah.
Kicks everybody else's butt, and they work. So you don't have to worry about, hey, charger's supposed to be 20 miles up, and we got 30 miles of range. We're good. So that's the short-term answer to the infrastructure, and that's why all of these other manufacturers are paying him millions of dollars to get the software. And so a lot of these electric cars are coming out this coming year in 2025, not only with the adapter, but with the software built into the on-car charger, the onboard charger, so it can communicate not only with a standard charging setup, the North American charging system, but with Elon's Teslas.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like when I heard, I read that VW with their microbus, their VW, I'm trying to remember, I want to make sure I'm citing the article right. But with VW doing the EV thing, they said it would be nice if we had this basic rolling chassis, the software package, and the battery platform and motor platform to where they license that out to another manufacturer. That way, basically, whatever body style you're putting on that rolling chassis, whatever badge you put on it, go for it. But you're still paying us our percentage because you're licensed building what already works. So that basically cuts your production time in half. It's kind of like in World War II, Rolls-Royce had a liquid-cooled V12 for their aircraft. They use it in bombers. They use it in fighters. It was called the Merlin, not named after the magician, but the bird. And when we sent our American Mustang to them as a order of an aircraft as an interceptor with our Allison General Motors built V12, the aircraft performed nice, but above 15,000 feet, it just didn't have the horsepower or the power rating to really let the airframe do what it needed to do. So the Brits, they took a Merlin with a 2-stage supercharger, put it on the front of a Mustang, and all of a sudden that became what everybody knows as the P-51. B model to the C model to the bubble top D model and K model. And Packard, which was a big automotive manufacturer here in the 40s in America, they got the licensing to make the Rolls-Royce engine. So it's a Packard-built Merlin, and that's what we sent over there. So that licensing, we had the Lend-Lease program of, we're lending them the hardware over there, they pay us later, or whatever we were doing with that. I don't know, the financials. But that's what Volkswagen was talking about. That way it's like, oh, you want to build a car? Here's the Volkswagen rolling chassis for Model A, Model B, Model C. Which one do you want? Okay, here's our plans and stuff, license, build it, and all that kind of jazz. And you can call it, generic car, Hill Country Fair, whatever, HEB, So.
Well, from a manufacturer standpoint, that's smart, because where are they going to have to get all the parts from?
Yeah, exactly. The home base where the rolling chassis is from. Or for every part that they manufacture, they're having to pay a percentage back to who developed it and
right.
all that. It's like CAD. I don't know how CAD drawings work for everybody that uses computer-aided design, water jet cut and stuff. I mean, there's those engineers that you didn't want to be in the cubicle
right.
with. Those guys are doing and guys and gals are doing all the math. I'm more of a writer.
Well, yeah, the surfboard design is basically what you're talking about, where they build the platform. General Motors is doing that, and you see that now with their Lyric and the new Blazer that's coming out and so forth. They've got the base chassis where the batteries are all in the floorboard, for lack of a better analogy. Keeps the center of gravity low, keeps out, and all they do is they lengthen it or shorten it by adding battery packs to increase range. The new
or storage capacity, like on the microbus.
Right. So the new electric Escalade that's coming out.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same basic chassis, same basic structure, just lengthened with more battery packs, because obviously it's a bigger, heavier vehicle. But yeah, it's the same basic premise, and a lot of the manufacturers are doing that. So, and obviously it keeps costs down, because you've got effectively one platform. You just stretch it by adding more and more batteries, and there's linking packs of these batteries together, kind of like what you were talking about with the PlayStation 2s. You're just kind of linking these things together in series and increasing the capacity and increasing the range. But the next 10 to 15 years in the automotive industry is going to be really interesting, because there's so many divergent paths that we could go down. Continuing with the ICE engines and continuing to try to increase their efficiencies and stepping them up as well as we've done so far, but there's probably still a little bit more they could tweak. Going down the electric path even more so with the infrastructure bill that Biden passed, and actually starting to get that money out into the states and having those things work and be installed and be maintained, or the hydrogen.
Yeah.
That Toyota is betting on, or some new technology that we haven't even talked about. I mean, liquid propane's been used for forever. Liquid natural gas, LNG has been used
we've got that in Brownsville
for forever. Again,
Schwann's, that's who it is. Schwann's, the food delivery. Yeah,
you don't have the infrastructure. There's not enough places for people to go fill that up. But for those that use them and have converted their diesel pickups to those, I mean, they're extremely efficient and extremely clean. They burn clean. So there's a lot of different paths, and as much as for the last 2 years everybody committed to EV, I'm not 100% sold that that's where it's going to go. Maybe a third. I'd say a third of the marketplace. Just like I said,
a hybrid market where it's EV has its place, traditional fuel, and then
now what I am seeing, and especially like here with CDJR and with a lot of them, and that I'm reading more about in our industry publications, is just what you said, hybrids. It's an ICE engine with the ability to operate for periods of time in electric mode only. That's what my wife drives. She's retired. She's got 41 miles of electric only. And because she's retired, she lives in her bubble. And 41 miles is enough to get her to run her errands, do her things, and get back, and she plugs it in the wall. And then 8 hours later, it's fully charged. And if we go someplace to San Antonio, Corpus, we've got the gas engine that operates just like normal. So more and more manufacturers, I think Chrysler now has the Jeep, the Gladiator, the
Grand
Cherokee, and the Pacifica.
Yeah.
That are all plug-in hybrids.
Yep.
Now, again, plug-in is the key. Plug-in hybrids.
Yeah.
If they're a mild hybrid, that means they're just getting an electric boost.
Yeah.
You don't plug it in, and it's regenerating. It's charging itself based on braking in the transmission when you coast, doing what they call regenerative braking. But the plug-in hybrids have the ability for you to select and operate in electric-only mode. That is what's really gaining steam, and all of the 7,500. Discounts,
the tax
credits that the government's put out there, you can apply those even though they don't technically meet them if you do leasing.
Yeah.
And that's true for every manufacturer because the manufacturer itself is the one who's buying the car, not you. So in those scenarios, so you can offset that increase in cost with that 7,500 and then you get the added benefit. My wife puts almost no fuel in that car. None.
Wow.
Because she's running around on the electric. And she loves it. She absolutely loves it. So short term, next 2, 3, 4 years, I see a huge boost in the manufacturers producing more of those and to them adding battery packs to add range. I can see that range jumping because initially it was like 20 miles. That was a couple of years ago. Now it's 40. I could see next year, 26 models, 65, 70. So now it's a day's driving for most people. Most people don't drive more than 100 miles a day.
Yeah.
So, and you could plug it into your wall, no added expense for a level 2 charger, and charge it overnight. And do the rinse and repeat. Do it again the next day. So short term, I see plug-in hybrids. Long term, who knows?
Yeah.
And if I had the answer, I'd be investing in that company right now, and I'd be a millionaire and could retire.
Yeah. The hydrogen stuff, I remember they said, a byproduct is water. And, of course, for those who know their history, it's like hydrogen, Hindenburg. They're worried about that, But
look at the space shuttle.
Yeah.
Well, that was the big tank that launched them after they did the boosters was liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen.
Yeah, and that was feeding the main engines while the boosters were going. And those were SRB, solid rocket boosters.
Right.
Oh, now we're getting into my nerdness, yeah.
And that left what byproduct on the launch pad? Water.
Well, they actually dumped water onto the pad so the heat wouldn't cook it. Like, look what happened at SpaceX. They didn't put enough water on the pad, and the power on that blew the launch pad apart. I don't know. Did you see the film? That minivan getting destroyed?
Well, the other people also the estuaries that were down there with the fish and the birds and everything. All the chunks of concrete that were blowing in there. People just losing their mind because of what Elon did.
I wish I could have seen it. I know people who were there and they were on boats and they said the water was just rattling. I was like, man, put your net in there and start scooping up fish. They're probably confused too. That's fish in a barrel right there. But we'll see. I mean, good God, I'm swimming now, dude.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot. Blowing my mind here.
But yeah, so your guess is as good as mine. Where we go, how we go.
Element 115, man. Bob Lazar.
So it's
all the UFO tech.
The automotive industry is going to be fun over the next several years.
I remember reading this, or actually studying this in school because I took aviation maintenance technology or aerospace, whatever you want to call it. And for the first 50 years of aviation, it took from automotive and automotive build and engine technology, and all of a sudden it shifted to where automobiles started taking from aviation, aerospace, the use of plastics, Lexan, carbon fiber, onboard computers, and Velcro, all that kind of jazz. And I'm trying to figure out, what we're going to use next. Because like in the space program, we had the Apollo missions, we had the cryonics, and when you put all those chemicals together, the byproduct is electricity, water, and oxygen. And of course, to run the onboard computer, for people to breathe and to drink water. And that was just a little short hop, skip, and a jump to the moon. And it's like, what kind of cryogenic power could we do here on Earth? But then again, that's chemicals and supercooling and all that kind of jazz. And that's probably the hydrogen stuff.
I don't know if you get there just simply because what happens when you have an accident?
Yeah.
What happens with a leak or a rupture of one of those things? I mean, look at Apollo 13.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But the next big jump is core computing. Okay, so and this is already taking place as we speak with multiple manufacturers. But you're going to start seeing that here probably next year and the year after. Cars are going to come out with what they call a core computing system. So think of it like iOS.
Okay.
So if you're an app developer and you want to sell an Apple app, you have to write it in iOS.
Okay.
You don't have a choice. It won't work. Okay, but as it is right now, if I'm an automotive manufacturer and I go to an ABS brake system and I say, I want you to design the ABS brake system, or I've got this design here, I want you to build it. You're going to give it back to me. Now I've got to make, with my engineers, my computer systems talk to your computer system. And so you've got lost time. We're talking milliseconds here, but you've got lost times in terms of how these things connect and how they interrelate. Well, they've also decided that that's a waste. And Elon has a core computing system. He's got one computing system, but he designs all of his systems. But Volvo doesn't, Ford doesn't. You know, they're commissioning Bosch and AC Delco and whoever to make these components for them. They don't build everything for their car.
Yeah, it's a subcontractor. Same thing with the space program. Yeah.
Exactly. So now they've said, no, this is our core computing language. This is how you're going to communicate with my main master computer. We're not going to have 25 different ECMs on here. We're going to have one. And your stuff's going to talk to it, and it's going to be seamless, and it's only going to do it that one way. Here's the other advantage that has. You're able to do better updates because manufacturers have run into this constantly where they send an update because they figured out a way to enhance something or make this aspect better or fix this glitch, only to have it create another glitch because of the fact that they're not all talking the same language. And so it creates the need for a second update, a third update, a fourth update, and it ultimately pisses off customers.
Yeah, it's a loop, yeah.
So again, having one language, they're able to do that without fear, and have it be seamless. Here's the other thing it allows them to do. It allows them to make options like, again, we're borrowing from Tesla. Every Tesla out there can do autopilot.
Oh, the auto drive. Yeah.
Every Tesla has the capability. The hardware is there. You want that, it costs you $10,000 and they upload the program. Okay, so let's say you come in and you want to buy a car and you want it to have a 360 camera. All right, but you realize that option is just more than you want to spend right now when you're buying the car. Well, the hardware is there because we're already using those cameras for other safety features that we've included as standard on there. And you decide you want that a year later, you can pay, we'll upload the software, and now all of a sudden you've got 360 camera. So you'll be able to customize and enhance and update your hardware as you go because most of the stuff would already be there. And we've just figured out a better way to do it. It's no different than what you do with your cell phones. Every time there's a new feature that comes out, you don't buy a new phone, you update the software. Now, periodically you're going to have to because the camera is a fixed hardware and it's just going to get better. But we're going to start seeing that with cars where you're going to be able to add on features that you couldn't get or didn't want or couldn't afford when you initially bought them by simply having an over-the-air update or go into a service department and have that loaded. You're going to see these cars come with a lot more stuff up front and the ability to customize them as the car goes without having the need to replace the car. So we're going to see some light year jumps here in the next 2 to 3 years.
And that could
because of that.
And that could be also like a driver, like a incentive program. Let's say I'll spitball this with an insurance company. If you're a good driver for a year, they'll give you so many points or credits toward your next software update or upgrade, depending on.
They'd have to be in bed with the manufacturer because ultimately the manufacturer controls all of that.
Yeah.
But it just it's as opposed to now, if you wanted that feature and didn't want to buy it, you have to come back and trade the car in. There's no way for me to hardwire and include, say, a 360 camera, because the car that doesn't have it doesn't have the cameras on the mirrors.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the camera on the front. It just has the camera in the back.
Yeah.
But in this case, because those are all interconnected to other things, you'll be able to do stuff like that. And the next big safety technology is LiDAR.
What?
Light radar. Or light.
Oh.
So it's a laser radar.
I got you.
Okay? It's able to see in the dark.
I got you.
So,
yeah, Volkswagen talked about that possibly being on the microbus, to where it's a virtual representation of what the vehicle sees. It's like imagine, ladies and gentlemen, imagine your entire windshield being a heads-up display for driving at night, and you can see something up ahead. It's scanning the horizon, and it's giving you a visual display of what it sees.
But the thing about it is there's manufacturers out there, and there's I'm trying to remember the name of the company, but they've already partnered with two manufacturers that I won't name. And they are going to be standard on their cars that come out next year. And it gives almost a 360-degree view around a car. And it can see in pitch black up to 250 yards, fog 250 yards. So you no longer rely on sight solely. And the car will learn things about your path, like, hey, there's the school zone. So it knows automatically to monitor your speed at these areas. There's just its ability to recognize and differentiate objects and not provide the false positives that a lot of these autonomous braking systems do now. Yeah. Okay, and to be able to see small objects like a squirrel or a ball and know that a kid's coming behind it,
or a pothole.
Those types of issues. And then the next cool feature that they're talking about with the core computing is effectively making your car Apple Pay. So because, again, you've got a single computer that you could tie a payment service to that, so that when you drove through the drive-through, you could tap a button on your steering wheel and it sends the signal and pays.
Kind of like at the car washes where you have your little tag.
Well, or it's reading your license plate. But in this case, it's like an RFID, just like you're using on your phone to tap to pay. Your car effectively is that. So the added convenience and so forth.
So if your car is linked to your bank account.
Well, you link a credit card, if you will, to the operating system in your car, and you drive through Starbucks.
Or pull up to HEB curbside, boom, you're done.
Yeah, and everything. So those are the things that are on the immediate horizon, and that core computing will allow them to do. So, like I said, there's a lot of neat stuff coming.
No joke. When do the cars fly? That's what I want to know.
Cars have started increasing almost as fast as our cell phones are.
Yeah.
So technology is amazing and expensive.
Yeah.
Hence 96-month financing.
Yeah, no joke. My dad, he was alive long enough to see the propeller turn into the jet, to the rocket, the vacuum tube, into the transistor, into the integrated circuit, into nanotechnology. And before him leaving this earth, he goes, I wish I was around to see what happens next. He goes, I'm very curious about what's coming down the road technology-wise. He thought the internet was the greatest thing on the planet. He was like, this is true. The information at the touch of your fingertips, wow, And now it's like, what's next? And then going back to the social aspect of it, you're not even going to talk to the person at the drive-thru. They've even got automated McDonald's now. Did you see that?
Yep.
No human inside of McDonald's.
Yep. Kiosks.
Yeah. You just tell it what you want, and you watch it. It's like, Build-A-Bear, whatever it is. Just Build-A-Burger right there. Not those Build-A-Burgers, but yeah, it's, you don't even have to tell somebody on that crappy speaker at the drive-thru. You just tap it in there. Like the moment your vehicle recognizes you're at Mickey D's, Big Mac #1, and you're on your way.
Brave new world.
Yeah. As I hold up my Spock fingers. Oh, technology is wonderful. Well, hey, this is our portion of the podcast where we start talking about music, and the reason is because we talk about music a little bit because it's an international language, like your core computing, but also it comes down to the fact of, in post, I sit here and I actually play a song of your choosing. Now, I'm a country rocker, but I've been known to play some stuff. Even Sarah, when she goes, hey, do some Fleetwood Mac, which was a challenge, but I did it, and I had a lot of fun doing it. But here's where I start talking about the music. Like, all right, here's our music portion. When you were growing up, like, what was on the radio in the kitchen or the stereo? Like, what'd your folks listen to?
Oh, they listened to contemporary, 70s and 80s rock and roll music. So that's what I grew up on. The Beatles, Loggins and Messina.
AM Gold.
Let's see, who else? Simon and Garfunkel.
Firefall.
The Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
That's that. So obviously, as I got older, classic rock was the natural go-to. The Who, Pink Floyd, The Doors, that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
Got a little bit older into high school and into college and moved over into alternative music and industrial music. So The Cure, New Order, the synth music, Pep Shop Boys, that kind of stuff.
Really?
And
the Smiths, all that kind of jazz.
Oh, yeah. And I've kind of stayed in that genre to the point that my sons and I, in July, are heading to Austin to go see Cage the Elephant and Young the Giant and Bakar.
Where's Dinosaur Jr. in all this? No,
so the current crop of alternative music.
Cool.
That's I listen to what is it, Alt Nation and
on Sirius?
On Sirius, and I've got the alternative on my iTunes, alternative radio station is what it's on. So that's typically what I'm streaming in my car.
I like the garage station on XM. That's where I heard I don't know, is it the Lears or the Liars with it? Help You Ann. Dude, yeah. Look up Help You Ann it's Lyres. I don't know how to pronounce it. I need to learn how. But that, and then like there's like all that Loggins Messina stuff. Mm-hmm. Like they call it yacht rock. You heard about that?
Yep. Yeah, like with what's his name? Sailing. I can't think of his name. Christopher Cross. Thank you, Christopher Cross.
That's the first song I ever tuned on a radio.
And
Michael
Air
McDonald.
Supply and Michael McDonald.
Yeah.
Peter Cetera from his Chicago days.
Yeah, that's yacht rock. But no, I don't like repeating myself too much. One of my daughters, she goes, listen to this, Dad. It was called Yacht Club, YOT Club, and it was a song called Japan. And I thought it was some alt-rock band from the 90s. I was like, oh, I've heard this. And they're like, oh, really? Yeah. Oh, this is The Cure. Or this is the Smiths. Or this. And they go, no, Dad, this is like a new band. And then I listened to it, but it was so 80s. And I went, I was like, and you like this music? Yes. I was like, oh, thank God. It's like you like some real music. I mean, you remember when, was it Run DMC and Aerosmith got together? They thought that was that's the coolest thing ever. Then we got Kid Rock out of that, which isn't too bad. It's not too bad. Not too bad. But so you did all that kind of stuff, and so you've just stayed in that alt-rock vein? Yeah,
I mean, the wife and I just recently went to see Billy Joel and Stevie Nicks in Dallas.
Whoa, that was on the same bill?
On the same bill. Yeah, she opened for him, and then they actually sang a duet. He came out and sang a duet.
Really? God, I wish I could have seen Tom Petty and her before he left this earth. Dude,
well,
did you see Tom Petty?
No, but who was it? Her vocal coach? Stevie Nicks' vocal coach, because she's 74 years old. So he came out and sang a duet with her, and he played the Tom Petty role. I think it was the "Stop Dragging My Heart Around."
Yeah, the "Stop Dragging." And my favorite one of theirs is "Insider." Oh yeah, I looked it up. "Insider." Yeah, that's a great song.
And then Billy Joel sang the duet with her and Don Henley. He sang the Don Henley.
Oh, wow.
Part.
Dang.
So saw that one. I mean, so we've gone back and seen we kind of like bucket list concerts that we haven't. We saw U2 when they did their Joshua Tree revival, 30-year Joshua Tree tour. We saw that.
Really? Man, what was that like?
That was amazing. And then she wanted to see Aerosmith when they came to the Valley, so pre-COVID we went and saw that one.
That's right. It was before COVID.
So we've been hitting some of these aging rockers that are going out again. I've got to hand it to them. Almost all of them have sounded amazing. Oh, we saw the Eagles with their last tour. It wasn't with Henley. I mean, Glenn Frey, because he'd passed away. I'm trying to remember who was it that played. It was actually a country singer.
Oh, Vince Gill.
There you go. Thank you. But anyway, so he played all of the Glenn Frey stuff. But yeah, so we saw them in Houston. But we've been trying to, pick and choose our moments. And
if you get a chance to see Foreigner that new guy they got with Foreigner. He's been with them for a while. I recommend it. That guy is fun. Saw them a few years back, and it's like, the concert kind of started in line to get a cold frosty, and all of a sudden we look up. This was at the McAllen Performing Arts Center. We look up, and there's a guy with a wireless mic. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Get your butts in here! And I'm like, who is that? And all of a sudden it dawned on me, that's the front man. The front man of the band. The band starts, and this guy comes out to the mezzanine, whatever, overlooking concessions, and he's like, get your butts in here. It's time to rock. It's like, I like this guy,
Oh, and the last one was ZZ Top.
Is this with
a month ago?
Okay, so that's after Dusty Hill passed. Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah,
they sounded the same. Of course, they're unaudible, but that's okay.
Yeah, trust me, I'm a Top fan, man.
But he still played.
Oh yeah, Frank and Billy. Yeah, and that was Dusty's guitar tech, the bass tech, who took over duties for that. He's got some 18-string bass. Did he bring that thing out?
Oh yeah, he did.
I have a hard enough time with 4 strings. God. But I'm glad you got to see Top. They're great.
Yeah, that was fun.
Cool. Now, I'm a country rocker, and I sit here and I play a song. If I was to play a song for you, for our listeners out there, it's what I do. What would you like? Now, I've done some alt rock before, and I know the powers that be were like, stick to country and rock and stuff, I'm like, but I played something recently. It was kind of out of my.
You're talking about you personally play it.
Yeah, I acoustic guitar and the microphones, and depending on the song, and sometimes it's just my vocal and a guitar. Sometimes it's I'll overdub a harmony vocal, but it's all me. And there's times where I'll sit there and do multiple guitar overdubs, and I'll do some percussion on the guitar. It's all in post. I get to have fun in studio. It's not just all commercials and stuff. It's my way. Oh, here we go. The cogs are turning.
Then since you can do all the electrical stuff with it.
Yeah, I can do it. Yeah,
you ought to do the Steven Tyler and Run DMC. since you can do all of the actual beats in the background.
Oh well,
you brought it up.
I hate you. I can hear Donna going, no. But then again, it's a challenge. I can hear my bandmates going, yeah, waka, 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 waka. Actually, I saw a guy, he was doing, it's an old school hip hop song. And he had, for all of my musician buddies, he had another snare drum turned upside down. And on the bottom is the actual snare, right, or what some people call the chains.
Right.
And he's going, and he takes the bead of his drumstick and rubs it, goes, waka, 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 waka. It sounded like a record. And I went, that's talent.
That's creative.
Yeah.
Or sure? any Beastie Boy song.
Oh. So you listen to the Beasties, huh?
Well, come on, I am a child of the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. What's that meme? It says, here you are, middle-aged, and you're going to bed before 9, and the Beastie Boys fought for your right, and you're just giving it up?
Well, here's the other beautiful thing. Since I don't do social media, I never saw the meme.
Oh.
But I can find the humor in it.
Yeah. That's right. You don't, well, I'll send you a link to this so you can listen. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and elsewhere.
Didn't say I didn't do podcasts.
Oh,
just said I don't do social media.
I got you. Well, we'll see here. Beastie Boys, Run DMC, and Aerosmith. How fun will that be?
I'll leave it wide open. Would you pick the easiest one?
Easiest one, knowing me and the powers that be going, come on, editing time on this, and I can hear my bandmates going, do it. Just do it. We want to hear you make a fool of yourself. Do it. And I've had bandmates, they listen to this stuff, and they go, did you really? You did that? I go, yeah. And I get mixed reviews of, wow, that was cooler. Chris, you're dumb.
What were you thinking?
Yeah, it's like, dude, are you serious? Why don't you do that on stage? I'm like, that doesn't work there. But that's what friends are for. You did you ever have that running around on your bicycle? You had that friend with you, like, let's do something really. It's like,
no, I was the one that was like, come on, we won't get caught.
You're the instigator.
That was me. Now, come on, they won't know. We'll get away with it. What are the odds?
And now he's a manager.
Well, the advantage is I know all of the goofy stuff people will try, and I'm like, no, I won't let them get away with it.
You know, I think it was you who actually told me it is easier to ask for forgiveness
than permission.
So, Donna, we now know.
Every married man knows that, but there's also one other quote that I'm not going to take credit for. In fact, Adrian Gonzalez, the general manager here, uncle, actually shared this with me, and it's very profound. As somebody who's in a committed relationship, as the male portion, you have two choices in life. You can be right, or you can be happy. You don't get to be both.
That's like being a musician. You can either be a musician or grow up, but you can't have both.
And sometimes it's worth it to sleep on the couch.
Yeah. I've done that. Well, we'll get that out right now. We're going to, some musical mayhem brought to you by yours truly. Well, Geoff, here we go. I know we mentioned Run DMC and Aerosmith and Beastie Boys, and I tell you what, this country rocker called me. I am going to stay in my lane on this one. But you mentioned seeing Cheap Trick in concert, still out there doing it. I tell you what, hats off to one of my guitar heroes and their guitarist, Mr. Rick Nielsen. From what you said, Geoff, he goes on tour with over 40 guitars, and he uses them all. And I'll tell you what, that right there, that's a guitar hero of mine. So guess what? Here's my tribute to them and all the rest of those rockers out there still doing it and laying down the groove all these decades later.
She told me I'd meet girls just like you. She also told me to stay away. You'll never know what you'll catch. Just the other day I heard of a soldier's falling off some Indonesian junk that's going round. Mommy's alright, Daddy's alright, they just seem a little weird. Surrender, surrender, but don't give yourself away. Hey, hey, yeah. Father says your mother's right, she's really up on things. Before we married, Mommy served in the wax in the Philippines. Now I heard that the wax recruited old maids for the war, but Mommy isn't one of those. I've known her all these years. Mommy's alright, Daddy's alright, they just seem a little weird. Surrender, surrender, but don't give yourselves away. Hey, hey, yeah. Whatever happened to all these seasons, losers of the year? Every time I got to thinking, where did they all disappear? When I woke up, all Mom and Dad are rolling on the couch. Rolling numbers, rock and rolling, got my Kiss records out. Mommy's alright, Daddy's alright, they just seem a little weird. Surrender, surrender, but don't give yourselves away. Hey, yeah, yeah. Mommy's alright, Daddy's alright, but don't give yourself away. Surrender, surrender, but don't give yourself away. Mommy's alright, Daddy's alright, Mark's alright, Austin's alright, Bud's alright, we're all alright, and Jeff's alright. Yes, we are. Surrender, surrender, but don't give yourself away.
Well, that about wraps up another edition of Payne Auto Talk with me, your host, Chris Marshall of the Payne Street Team, here with General Sales Manager of Payne Edinburg, Chrysler-Dodge-Jeep-Ram, Mr. Geoff Mauldin. Jeff, in closing, what do you got for the folks at home out there?
Be safe.
The instigator says be safe. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Payne Auto Talk with me, your host, Chris Marshall, brought to you by Payne Auto Group Family-wide and PayneAutoGroup.com, where we have what you want. Look at to get us, regardless, and we are gone.